In this video, I want to call your attention to two important stuff when it comes to writing loops, and you have to pay attention because you're going to make a couple of mistakes. Sometimes when you forget or when you set a wrong conditional expression or loop expression, you may end up with an infinite loop, which can freeze your computer. So what happens is sometimes you think you've created a perfect conditional statement for your for loop, and you've probably just made a little bit of mistake, and the loop will continue running forever. I've tried this on a Windows machine, and I couldn't even end the program because it's an infinite loop. It keeps running and running and running, and when it does that, if you're using a machine that is not powerful, it's actually going to take over the CPU cycle. So that means the program will keep running and you won't be able to close the program, and you may end up to actually restart your computer. So consider the following. I've written an example here, which is I declare a variable called I declare the for loop, and I say here int I equals to 0, I is less than 10, I minus minus, then I want to print out the value of I. So the program here, the problem here is, if you've noticed it, is this program doesn't have any end. This loop doesn't have an end because I am checking for a value of I that is less than 10, and because I keep deducting 1 from I, because I minus minus means I equals to I minus 1, so that means the value of I will always be less than 10. So that means this loop is an infinite loop, so it's gonna keep running because every time I decrease the value of I and I check, it's gonna always come true for eternity. The value of I is always gonna be less than 10. So the above for loop will continue to run until you terminate the program or you restart your computer. The reason is because the expression I is less than 10 will always return true, since you are also decreasing the value of I by 1. So I will always be less than 10. Make sure you check your loop conditions before you run them. And the next thing I want to talk about is something called variable scope. So basically, when you declare a variable inside a for loop, that variable does not exist outside your for loop, so you cannot use them. Variable scope simply means that whenever you declare a variable inside a for loop, the variable is not available for use outside of the loop. It will cease to exist. So let me show you how these two program works. So the first one is I've created this infinite loop, just the one I show you. I initialize counter to be 0, counter is less than 10, counter minus minus. I made a mistake, so let's run the loop and see what happened. As you can see, the loop keeps running. Don't worry, the loops keeps running, but this is probably driving it's gonna drive my fan crazy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop it. So you have to press stop. Even though you cannot hear it right now, the fan of my laptop is actually going crazy. Wow, my fan is coming on now. Even though I have a Mac Core i7, my fan is actually going mad right now. Can you hear that? I've actually moved the microphone close to my fan. My fan is going crazy, and it's this is because it's an infinite loop. If you don't have a powerful computer, it's going to actually crash your computer. So as you can see, it starts from 0, minus 1 all the way, and this is so fast. Between 1 to 3 seconds, it's got to 16,000, minus 16,000. So this is how you write a for loop. Don't try it at home. And the second thing I want to show you is that I've commented this one out. As you can see, even though I've declared the counter inside the for loop as int counter, but now outside I say counter equals to 30, and it's giving me a warning sign. It said use of undeclared identifier of counter. Because we declare counter inside the for loop, it doesn't exist. And this is not just in a for loop as well. Inside other like switch statement, if you declare a variable inside switch statement or if statement, anything, when you have these two curly brackets and you declare a variable inside of it, then it's difficult. Like let me show you one of the programs I created earlier on. Open recent program, open recent. the one that this one we say system cost, the one that remember when we did in the previous video. This is why I have declared all my variables. This one was an unused variable, remember I didn't use it, so let's comment it out. The reason why I declared all my variables at the top is because I want to make them a global variable so that I can access it inside of each of these switch statements and for statements and loops and things like that. If I have declared it inside the switch statement, then I won't be able to get access to it. You understand? So this is why it's always good to declare. We're still going to talk about encapsulation and how to make your program more secured by knowing which variables to declare global. These are called global variables because they're accessible from any part of the program, and there are some variables that you have to declare as local as well. So there is local variables which you declare inside like a for loop, and there's a global variable which you declared outside them so that it can be accessible to any of the throughout the part of your program. So we're going to look at this, and don't worry too much about it. Just want to show you those two things, which are the variable scope and infinite for loop. Pay attention to those, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.